$3 is all it takes to permanently remove oil stains from your clothes. And once you see it work, you'll realize you've been lied to your entire life. We're not talking about fading the stain or making it less visible. We're talking about completely erasing it like it never existed in the first place. And yet, people keep spending hundreds every year on dry cleaning services, expensive detergents, and so-called advanced stain removers that barely do the job. That should already make you question something. Because if a $3 solution exists, then why are billion-dollar industries still thriving? The answer is simple and a bit uncomfortable. They don't want you to know. Welcome to Life Hack Factory, where we expose the hidden methods, the suppressed knowledge, and the simple solutions that were never meant to go mainstream. Today's secret is not new, it's not revolutionary, and that's exactly why it's dangerous to the system. Because this method existed decades ago, quietly used behind the scenes, before it was slowly pushed out of the spotlight. And the reason it disappeared is not because it failed. It disappeared because it worked too well. Oil stains are one of the most common problems people face, whether it's food spills, car grease, makeup, or even natural body oils that slowly ruin fabrics over time. These stains are stubborn, frustrating, and often permanent if not treated correctly. And that frustration is exactly what the industry feeds on, because the more difficult the stain feels, the more products you buy trying to fix it. You try one detergent, then another, then a stronger formula, and eventually you give up and go to a professional cleaner. That cycle repeats again and again, and every step of that cycle makes someone money. Now imagine if that cycle didn't exist. Imagine if you could solve the problem instantly at home with something cheap and simple. That would destroy the entire business model. And that's exactly what almost happened in the late 1960s. In a textile lab in Osaka, Japan, a young chemist named Hiroshi Tanaka was working on industrial cleaning solutions, not fabric care. His goal was to remove heavy grease from machinery parts, something far more intense than everyday clothing stains. During one of his experiments, a small amount of his solution accidentally spilled onto a cotton cloth that had been heavily stained with oil. He expected damage or discoloration, but what he saw instead shocked him. The stain didn't fade, it disappeared completely within seconds. There was no trace left behind, no residue, no shadow, nothing. At first, he thought it was a coincidence, so he repeated the test multiple times using different fabrics and different types of oil. Every single time, the result was the same. The oil didn't just lift from the surface, it broke apart at a molecular level and lost its grip on the fabric completely. This wasn't cleaning in the traditional sense. This was destruction of the stain itself. Naturally, Tanaka reported his findings, expecting recognition and excitement from his superiors. But instead of praise, he was told to stop the experiment immediately. The project was quietly shut down, the data was locked away, and access to the formula was restricted. No research paper was published, no product was launched, and no public mention was made. It was as if the discovery never happened. And the reason becomes obvious when you look at the bigger picture. The textile cleaning industry was already generating massive revenue, and a permanent solution to oil stains would disrupt everything. If people could remove stains instantly at home, they wouldn't need repeated services or expensive products. They wouldn't replace clothes as often, and they wouldn't rely on professional cleaning systems. In short, the entire cycle of dependency would collapse. So instead of releasing the discovery, it was buried, but not completely erased, because fragments of the idea slowly leaked into the market over time. Simplified versions of the chemistry appeared in everyday products, disguised as ordinary household items. Nothing flashy, nothing premium, nothing that would draw attention, just simple liquids sitting quietly on store shelves. Most people ignored them because they didn't look powerful or specialized. But the truth is, the core mechanism never disappeared. It just became hidden in plain sight. And today, that same mechanism still exists in a form you can easily access, a form that costs almost nothing compared to what the industry charges. But there's a catch. Knowing the product is not enough. Because the real secret was never the liquid alone. The real secret was how to use it correctly. The timing, the sequence, the method. These are the things that were never taught. And without that knowledge, even the best solution becomes ineffective. That's why most people try similar products and still fail. They rush the process, they dilute the formula, or they use the wrong technique. And when it doesn't work, they assume the product is weak. But in reality, the method was incomplete. What you're about to learn is not just a hack, it's a controlled chemical reaction that happens at the fiber level of your fabric. A reaction that breaks oil apart instead of just moving it around. A reaction that leaves nothing behind to come back later. And once you understand how it works, you'll realize how simple it always was. Now, let's get into the part that actually changes everything, because this is where theory turns into real results you can see with your own eyes. The liquid you need is not rare, not expensive, and not hidden behind any premium branding. It's something you've probably seen 100 times without paying attention. A basic grease-cutting dishwashing liquid is enough to trigger the entire reaction when used the right way. Yes, the same thing people casually use for dishes has the power to destroy oil stains on fabric at a molecular level. But here's the part they never explain, because the liquid alone is not the magic, the method is. Most people make the same mistake. They dilute it with water immediately, or they start scrubbing aggressively as soon as they apply it. Both of those actions completely ruin the reaction before it even begins. You don't want to weaken it, and you definitely don't want to rush it. You want the liquid in its pure, undiluted form so it can directly interact with the oil molecules inside the fabric. Start by placing the stained fabric on a flat surface so the liquid can spread evenly without interference from folds or pressure points. Then, take a small amount of the dishwashing liquid and place a single drop directly on the stain without touching it. At this moment, nothing visible happens, but inside the fibers, something important begins. The molecules in the liquid start aligning themselves around the oil, preparing for the breakdown process. This is why the first pause is critical, because you're giving the chemistry time to activate. Wait for about 10 to 15 seconds without touching or spreading the liquid. Then gently use your finger or a soft brush to spread the liquid across the stain, making sure it covers the entire affected area. This is not scrubbing, this is simply guiding the liquid so it reaches all parts of the stain evenly. After that, you stop again, and this second pause is even more important than the first one. Give it at least 30 seconds, or up to 2 minutes if the stain is old or deeply set. During this time, the oil structure begins to weaken from the inside, as the liquid breaks the bonds holding it together. You won't see dramatic changes yet, but the real work is happening beneath the surface of the fabric. Once this phase is complete, you introduce the final trigger, which is warm water. Not hot enough to damage the fabric, and not cold enough to slow the reaction, just comfortably warm. Pour the water slowly over the stain instead of blasting it, because a steady flow helps carry away the broken oil particles. And this is the moment where everything clicks. The stain begins to disappear right in front of you, often within seconds, as if it was never there. No fading, no shadow, no leftover mark trying to come back later. Just clean fabric. If the stain was extremely heavy, you can repeat the process once more, but in most cases, a single cycle is enough. What makes this so powerful is not just the result, but the consistency of the result when done correctly. People who use this method regularly stop experimenting with different products because they already know what works. They don't waste money trying new formulas, and they don't panic when something gets stained. They follow the process, and the result is predictable every single time. Now compare this to professional cleaning services that charge high prices for treatments based on similar chemical principles. The difference is not always the chemistry, it's the packaging, the branding, and the controlled environment they create around it. They make it feel specialized and complex, so it justifies the cost. But once you understand the core mechanism, that illusion starts to break. You realize that many of these advanced solutions are just variations of the same idea you're now using at home. Over time, this doesn't just save you money, it changes how you think about everyday problems. You stop assuming that expensive solutions are better, and you start questioning why simple ones were never shown to you properly. That awareness spreads into other areas of life, where convenience is often sold at a premium while simplicity is ignored. And that's where the real value of this knowledge lies, not just in removing stains, but in understanding how systems are designed to keep you dependent on them. Because once you break that dependency in one area, it becomes easier to break it in others. That's how small discoveries turn into powerful shifts in thinking. And that's exactly why knowledge like this is rarely promoted on a large scale, because an informed person is harder to control, and a self-sufficient person is less profitable. Now you have the method, you have the understanding, and you've seen how something so simple can outperform expensive alternatives. So use it, test it, and share it with people who are still stuck in that cycle. Because the more this spreads, the weaker that cycle becomes. Subscribe to Life Hack Factory for more hidden knowledge like this, and stay ahead of what most people never get to learn.